It's so fun to have you here, Ashley Albert.
Hi. You're like very far away. I feel like.
Hi, Bub. Hi. No, well, sometimes I do these things over Zoom. I'm actually over Riverside FM. It's a nice app. Yeah, woot woot. But it's nice that I can
to be in person and
We've known each other I don't know if it's been that long, but it's been lifetimes because you reinvent yourself every how long?
I think we've known each other maybe 11 years.
Yeah, from the voiceover industry.
Yeah, maybe longer.
We met in a casting session, and you're just a sparkly being. I think you were talking about the Jimmies at one point, and also selling necklaces.
From the Survival of the Hippest, which is still going. I gave it to somebody else when I got too busy.
Yeah, well...
It still happens, yeah.
Well, who are you and what do you do? Maybe we should start there.
Who am I and what do I do?
Who are you today? That's the craziest thing about Ashley Albert is you wear so many hats and you wear them fabulously.
I did a website. I always owned ashleyalbert.com and never actually did a website because what do you need a website for? And then when I did the website, I was like, oh, this is kooky. This looks like I'm making stuff up or just trying to make ends meet, just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. But there's kind of a through line.
I can vouch.
To all this stuff.
This is a real deal person. Yeah.
Yeah. When I tell people on the airplane, if I'm talking to someone, they definitely think I'm making stuff up. You start out with here's what I do. And then they're like, this girl's off. She's not making any sense.
Actually, when you told me that 11 years ago, you were like, I don't make a lot of sense. I follow an impulse until it's really fun, and then I leave it when it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, well, I think now I've obviously picked a couple of things that I can't leave when they're not fun anymore. But yeah, I think in general, all of the things that I have done in my life have just been a result of just saying yes to something. My policy is if I can say yes to something, I will.
Oh, interesting.
And so almost everything that I have achieved or gotten myself into, for better or worse, are because I said yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how I ended up with the kids band. I have a rock band for kids. I have
called the Jimmies.
We are marginally successful, but we still play on the radio, so we get fan mail. And I have this song called "Do the Elephant" that's about sneezing into your arm.
I know it well.
You're familiar with "Do the Elephant"? And right when COVID hit, this very famous kids band from Australia licensed the song, and they did the most terrible. I hope nobody's listening. It is it really was this is what you get for selling out to the man, because it was terrible. When you do the elephant,
Australian man,
you do it with your arm, and the person who was singing it was using her non-dominant arm. She could not do the elephant. She couldn't do the elephant.
But did she pay well?
It has millions and millions of views.
Good song.
So it's there you go. But it's a terrible rendition. But I get royalties from it. So there's
that.
Good luck to you.
Yeah. I bet Jimi Hendrix feels that way about some of the remakes of his songs.
Yeah.
He's like, hello, but he gets money for it.
He's also not alive anymore.
Not alive. Right, so he doesn't care.
He doesn't. But yeah, somebody does.
I just called you the Jimi Hendrix of the Jimmies,
kids music. I like
music.
It.
Yeah. Just to be clear, the elephant is when you sneeze into your arm. This is a teaching device. Yes. It happens to be cleverly done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of our only truly overtly educational songs, but it's very popular on the interwebs.
Well, as it should be.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're still getting paid for that. Well, that's just one of the things you do.
That's true.
You also are the head honcho at the Matzo Project.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those yummy treats, they're really great crackers. You can find them at Whole Foods. I get them at Shelsky's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a classic spot for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of little shops. Oh, yeah. JetBlue, that was really exciting to get onto JetBlue.
I mean, how you thought of making matzah accessible to the masses, I'll literally never know. I find matzah to be very constipating. But these are not.
No, they're just like crackers. They're
long.
Just good, plain, neutral, put anything on them crackers.
With a really fabulous old lady as the spokesperson.
And we do matzo ball soup and, other things that aren't just matzah. Yeah.
Matzo for like all year round.
Yeah.
For all types of people.
Yeah. That's the whole, like we're taking on pita chips and saltines and water crackers.
I see you.
Yeah.
But not Ritz? Because I don't know if you could ever compare.
Buttery and flaky. Different thing. When I was a kid, I had a whole racket going where I would heat up Ritz crackers in my Betty Crocker oven, and I would charge $0.25, and everybody from the neighborhood would come to my like window, and I would sell them like a single hot Ritz cracker like it was gold. It was like Ashley's special crackers. They had no idea that it was literally just like a heated up Ritz cracker.
I need you to know that this story really like makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It like for the trajectory of the rest of your life, you're like, I know how to sell things that people want.
Yeah.
I like, for whatever reason, you got that brain. And now they were delicious. Ritz crackers are delicious, which is why we don't compete with them.
No, we don't try.
We don't try.
Let them have their own thing.
And then you have your Shuffleboard Club, which we've been talking about this event. We've been talking about it all day and night. This is where we should have it, the Shuffleboard Club in Brooklyn. How's that going?
The Royal Palms. It's going great. It's not my, I'm really good at having an idea and manifesting that idea. But once that idea has come to be, then it's got to be somebody else's thing. I have learned that I am not the day-to-day follow-through person. I'm the like, make it and then walk on to the next thing. And but it's such a big business that there isn't a ton of, I have to stay a little bit. I've less and less as the years go on. But we have one in Chicago, and we have one here, and maybe we'll be making another.
Oh, that's
couple.
Cool.
Yeah, I hope so.
I see Miami in your future.
I'm from Miami.
Oh, well, there you go.
I
see Miami in your past.
I feel like opening. It's Florida themed, so I feel like opening a Florida themed club in Florida. Like, they don't need us there.
Right.
They need
Florida.
us in Chicago, where it's wintry and cold and Midwestern and it's a novelty. Whereas in Florida, they've got outdoor shuffleboard. They don't need our shuffleboard courts in Florida.
This is why you do what you do, and I don't.
Ashley, can we celebrate? You're ranked the 10th best female shuffleboard player in the world. Is that true?
That is true, but I'm not actually a particularly good player. It's just that I'm very good under pressure. And the people who I'm playing are like in their 80s. These women are in their 80s. They practice like 6 hours a day.
Why are you dissing these women?
Here's
Nine
the
of them are better than you.
No, they're definitely better than me. They're all better than me. So much so that if I get even the tiniest slight tiny little lead, they panic because they're like, oh my God, is this like twerp gonna beat me? Like, there's no way. So they start to panic, and then I just play dumb. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I gonna beat you? This is crazy. And then they beat themselves. Like, they just panic, and I have so much less to lose than they do. And that's how I move up in the ranks. Plus, they are a little bit older, so I could be the 9th best player by the end of the day. Just not doing anything. Just
great.
hanging out.
I'm so excited for you. She's such a high achiever. But by the end of this interview, you're at 8.
Who knows?
Well, have we covered all of your professional accolades? I don't think so.
No.
Not yet. I don't think we ever could. But here's the real reason why you're here is because you adopted a beautiful 13-year-old boy. Was he 13 when you...
I met him when he was 11. I brought him back this past February when he was 12, and he turned 13 in August. So now he's a teen. Now he's like a full-fledged angsty teen. He was
13.
Yeah. And it's hard to know how much of his angst is trauma and just teen. But it's a lot of angst.
It's a lot of angst.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, we were talking, and I'd love for you to like walk us through what the adoption process is like, because I'm sure there are people who are listening in who are interested in
me, for starters. I very much am career driven and like very, very okay with if that's like how it shakes out for me, if I even go any sort of motherhood route. So I am particularly interested to hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a plan to really have kids either. Even when I was little, I didn't dream of getting married or having kids. I always was like, I'm going to have a career. Yeah. Like I really, even as when I was selling those Ritz crackers, I saw the path, and I was like, did not really see a person, a partner, and a family in my future. Also because I grew up like an only child, an only grandchild, parents not parenty so much. So it was hard to envision something that wasn't how I defined life and home. Anyway, I think
when we hung out, I think it was, what was that place in Union Square? Cafeteria. Is it still open? No, it closed, right?
The place, they have the best macaroni and cheese.
Was it cafeteria?
Cafeteria is open. It's on 17th and 7th. The one that closed, that's in Union Square.
It was like diner.
I'm going to find it.
They only had models serving.
Oh, coffee shop.
Coffee shop.
Yes.
And is it
No, it's not. Now it's a Chase Bank.
Okay, R.I.P. I remember sitting down with you, and I had just booked the Nook, which was like I was the voice of the Nook, and I was paying off my student loan, and it was like, wow, I'm really making it in the voiceover world. I'm gonna talk to this, veteran. I don't know, how long were you in the?
It was my full-time job for like almost 30 years.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Yeah. So we had a really good gig. And you sat me down and you're like, we have a really good gig. Yeah. And you were just like, and I get to use all this money I make and invest it in creative projects. There was never any talk about family or children. And I think that's pretty common in our industry. Like, I don't think it's like that kid focused, but when I saw years later that you were in the process of adopting, I was so moved because I also was I just didn't see that as something you wanted. And whatever you want, you get, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, no, me neither. It really was not a plan. It was not like a year ago. Well, maybe not a year and a half ago. It was not a twinkle in my eye. Truly. The way that it happened was first I'll predicate it by saying that I was down in Miami. My mom was in the hospital. And like I said, I'm an only child, an only grandchild. I really, I was sitting there in the hospital with my laptop thinking, when my parents go, that will be it. Like, there is no one else. Like, it's just me. Like, that's stark. And just at that moment, this woman, Leah, who was a big fan of the Matzo project. She contacted us once and she was like, I just have to meet you. I just think this is so smart and so fantastic. And she's this older woman. And when she comes into the city twice a year, I have lunch with her. Actually, at Le Pan Quotidien, the same place that you and I had that lunch that one time.
No.
Yes. Remember
we had lunch?
Different lunch. We were outside in the back.
Lunches.
So many lunches. Anyway.
I like Le Pan.
Me too. Their gazpacho's great. Anyway, she called and she said, I am involved in this program, and it's this program that brings over older kids from Colombia who are deemed unadoptable because they're no longer little and cute. So they bring over about 40 kids between the ages of 10 and 15, and they put them with hosts all around the country for 5 weeks in the summer or 3 weeks in the winter, and those hosts commit to trying to find them a family. Not necessarily, some people are like renting with an option to buy. Some people are looking to actually adopt, and some people every season bring a new kid and just like share them with their community and really try to find a family for them. And she said, some of these hosts have fallen through. This week is the last week for Colombia to get the paperwork put in, and these kids think they're going. They've been told they're going, and we have some hosts that have fallen through. Could you just go look? Go look on the website. See if you connect with any of the kids. It's just 5 weeks. You're so resourceful.
You're really
an
fun.
Adventure.
I mean, if there's anyone who's fun, it's Ashley Albert.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll go look. Ordinarily, I would have been like, okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll take a look. And then I would have flitted off to the next thing and completely forgotten about it. But because I was sitting in the hospital with my laptop with nothing else to do, I went onto the website and I saw this little guy's picture and I felt like I had seen him before. I was like, I know that kid. Like, am I on their mailing list? Maybe they have some like literature that he's on. Like, I really feel like I know him. That little guy, like, I could take that little guy for 5 weeks. What's 5 weeks? So when I decided to do that, when you decide to do something, then all of a sudden it's an emergency situation. Like then I had 4 days to do 15 hours of online training and get 3 reference letters and 2 different kinds of fingerprints and all this paperwork together and birth certificates and essay questions and all of these things together. And I hustled and I did all this crazy stuff. I flew back up quickly to show the social worker my house because you have to do like a home study. I put fire alarms in and all kinds of stuff. And then
did you not have fire alarms?
I mean, I had fire alarms, but I think you need like 1 in each room. Like there was like carbon monoxide. You have to have like fire extinguishers in places, like safety stuff.
And what's so weird is that you can have a baby.
I know, with none of that stuff. Oh, it's bonkers.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's great that you have these precautions. But
but you would think there's one kid in Colombia who they make it so difficult. You would think there's one child who everybody's clamoring for, and not thousands and thousands and thousands of kids. Oh my gosh, so many. Yeah. So
thousands of children
thousands
who are
and
orphans?
thousands. Yeah. Yeah.
In this one particular country, because they're having
Colombia.
trouble in Colombia.
I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I think in lots and lots of places, there's lots and lots of kids, hundreds and thousands of kids who need homes. But it's so strange because they really treat it like, maybe. Tell us more. So anyway,
and I think it's great on some level. I have another friend who went to Ghana to adopt her son, and she got stuck there for a whole year. She has 3 other children in Minnesota.
Why? Why?
Paperwork?
Just paperwork. Right.
I mean, on some level, they love these children and they don't want to hand them off to anyone, but...
Yeah. And that's
let me just tell you, Jenny's real nice. She's real nice. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, the paperwork process is ludicrous.
Yeah.
And there's... it's super invasive too. It's like somebody told me another person in the Facebook group, they had asked her if she was delivered vaginally or via C-section because they wanted to know what was wrong with her, that she had never been married. Yeah.
C-section.
There you go. I don't know but married and fine. You're fine. Everything's fine.
Also, married isn't the marker of fine.
Believe me, I know. Well, so that leads to the story, which is that I ran up, I showed the social worker my house. The next morning, they called
American social worker,
and they called me and they said, "Thank you so much for all of the, time and effort you put into this. We really appreciate it. We have found a 2-parent family that's interested in taking him, and we really do give precedence to 2-parent families." So, and I was like,
"This is Alejandro."
This is Alejandro. Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, cool." I was just going to be for 5 weeks. Maybe this is, I would have had to find him a family. This is the family. We're just cutting out the middleman. That was the whole point. Okay, I'm going to just, this is how it was supposed to be. And I'm going to just keep perspective here. And then I went to bed that night. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I wrote this impassioned letter about why I was a better choice for this kid than a 2-parent family. And how it was short-sighted of them to think that he would be better with a 2-parent family. 3 o'clock in the morning, I sent it off. I went to sleep. And by the time I woke up the next morning, there were 6 emails from the different powers that be. And they were like, "We had an emergency meeting with Colombia. We've decided to let him come to you. We've never had someone advocate so strongly for a child before." And then I was like, oh no. I don't know.
What have I done?
Right. I don't know if I just wanted to win. I don't know. I have no idea what my motivation was except to prove that I was just as good as a 2-parent family.
Which is also true.
Which is true. But now they definitely think that I'm adopting him because I just made it seem like what a better life he would have with me, not a better 5 weeks in the summer. And have I now taken him away from the one chance he had at actually having a family? And oh my God, what have I done?
Wow.
But he was coming.
God, the stakes are so high. Sometimes I hear stories about people who are like, "I wanted to get pregnant, I wanted to get pregnant, I wanted to get pregnant," and they get pregnant and they're like, "Shit."
Yeah.
Because that's a forever deal. That's not here's this idea, let me hand it off for someone else to manage.
Yeah.
It's a forever situation, and that's someone's life, and that's your life. The stakes are so high.
There was a movie, I don't remember the movie, but it said something like having kids is like getting a tattoo on your face. You really have to want it. Like, yeah, you can't get that tattoo off your face. So,
or if you did, it would really hurt.
No good. So he was coming, and I was like, okay, you know what? I cannot live my life for somebody else. I'm not going to just keep this kid just because these people expect me to. I will find him a family. I'm resourceful. I don't have to keep him. It's okay. It's going to be fine. And they had told me before he came that he had a low IQ. And I only had these 3 pictures to work with. First of all, the picture I saw after I started getting into the process, they were like, oh, by the way, that was from when he was 9. Here he is at 11, and he was a totally different kid. Still adorable, but not the same little cute kid that was in the picture.
Yeah.
More like a, preteen. But I had these 3 pictures and like a little tiny 1-paragraph bio to go on, and I just kept staring at the pictures and trying to, glean some information about him. I was like, okay, he's got on red Converse sneakers and striped socks. You don't pick that out of the pile unless you have a personality. That's a personality pick right there. I was like, okay, he's got friendship bracelet.
No bio, nothing.
I mean, the bio was like, this sweet, shy boy wins everyone over with his smile, likes Legos, basketball, and soccer. Meanwhile, when he got here, I was like, so soccer? And he's like, no. And I was like, basketball? And he was like, And I was like, Legos? And he was like, not really.
Wow.
Like, they just put like whatever an 8-year-old or 9-year-old boy might want on there. It was totally inaccurate. But I was just looking at these pictures, and I was looking at his eyes, and I was like, I don't think this guy has a low IQ. There's a lot going on behind those eyes.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of him, and there's a lot going on.
And so, like, 3 days before he came, they set up a Zoom call, because all of the other kids had met their hosts before they became hosts. They do like a big kind of like speed dating Zoom at the beginning, and then the parents and the kids pick each other, and they have like, a breakout room. I think only once or twice, but it's just sort of to get a sense of the kid before you bring him home. Since I skipped that whole process, all the other parents or hosts had like, 4 or 5 months of planning for this. I had like a week. So they set up a Zoom call for us. And on the Zoom call, he was so scared. He just, the whole time he looked down, he never looked up at me, and I'd be like, what's your favorite color? Sí, señora. All he said was, sí, señora, sí, señora. And I was like, oh, I think I have put a whole story on this little guy, and just like ideated, just put this whole idea of who he is on him, and maybe he's just like a sweet, dumb kid, and this is going to be a real long summer. And
5 weeks, just 5 weeks.
But I was like, this is going to be a very long 5 weeks, and oh gosh, this isn't the kid for me. Like, I can't keep this kid. I got to find a family for him. And he arrived at 6 a.m. at JFK. And by 7:30, I had already sent a note to the agency, like, all right, send over the paperwork. Like, yeah, he's my kid, and he's exactly the kid that I thought he was.
Like your son?
Yeah, like I just was like, so he came out.
I wish you guys could see Laura's face.
She's like,
I think that is so magical. I love things like that.
Well, wait till you hear the rest of the story.
Right, I know. I mean, like, the love at first sight is really special.
Yeah, but so he came out with the gaggle of other kids and immediately broke off and beelined for me and just hugged me.
No.
Yeah, and I was like,
Hello, sweet people. It's Daniella Rabbani, the host of the Mom Curious podcast, just chiming in here to take a break and promote another podcast on this network. It's one of my favorites. It's called Evolved by Erica, and I happen to be on the podcast. So if you're interested in spirituality and want to know how it can tie into motherhood, listen to my episode coming out May 10th. That's Evolve by Erica, and you can listen to it wherever pods cast. The podcast is geared towards those who are seeking to find clarity in what they want, shift their mindset, elevate their vibration, and manifest. Erica Polsinelli is an energist, meditation teacher, and host of Evolve by Erica. And she started this podcast to have intimate and deep conversations with her growing community. All right, back to the show. Do you even like kids? Were you into kids?
What?
I've never seen Ashley with a child in my life.
That's the thing. Like, I didn't grow up with any kids around at
Except
all.
for the ones you were selling crackers to.
Yeah, just the suckers I was selling crackers to. I was always super precocious. I was definitely not into kid stuff. Yeah, I mean, I have a rock band for kids.
Okay,
so I'm a kids sympathizer, to be sure.
Okay.
I definitely was like the person at the party that the kid, even if I'm like a Pied Piper with kids. Like, I could be sitting here having this conversation with you, and just strange children will just start climbing on me. One time I was at a party, and I was leaving the party. I hadn't even really talked to any of these kids, but they were sort of climbing on me while I was just chatting. And I went to leave, and this little girl ran after me, and she was like, little girl, I don't even know your name. I was like, what, you're going to like request a play date? Like, what? I was like in my like late 30s. So kids, I think maybe because I'm short, they think
you're
they're
short
still a
and
little
you're
confused
fun.
about like which side I'm playing on.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I like kids. Turns out I'm no good with kids.
No good?
No, I'm terrible at it. But because I am a kid, I think in a lot of ways. So I definitely I'm living like a full-on like situational comedy over at my house.
But you always have been. I mean, come on. You do live like a pretty, like, you lived a bachelor life.
Yeah.
I say bachelor on purpose.
For sure, yeah.
You know, like, you've always bucked convention. You're not here to please anyone or anything. Not out of any, like, rebellion, but you're just like, I can't do that, and I'm not going to do stuff I can't do. You know?
And so, like, you know, I'm definitely eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner out if I'm eating at all. Otherwise, I'm just like having cookies and a Snickers bar and calling that dinner. And now I'm like, right, you need food,
right? Oh,
and
for the child.
For the child.
I know. I feel the same way, though. Like, I need you to know that.
Oh,
I feel the same way.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. Like, I think, you know, I don't eat like a normal person. And like, I'm like trying to teach them, I don't feel like a normal I feel feelings so intensely, and I'm like, I'm supposed to like teach you how to self-regulate when I'm like, I'm supposed to teach you how to sleep, and I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm totally out of my depth here.
Okay, that makes me feel
you're not
better.
alone.
That
I'm assuming there are people who are listening who are like, you know, no, totally out of my depth.
Because, right, I'm definitely, I've only gotten a few really good parental nuggets, like good parental advice. I'm interested if you have any. One of the things I heard was, be the adult you want your kid to grow up to be. And I'm like, yes, I love that. Nope, don't do it like this. Whatever you're doing, this is an example of what not to do.
Yeah, I think that could be good advice if it resonates with you, but really, you're so cool. You're such a great, as you are. I just think like you've always listened to yourself and found what you're good at, what lights you up. You have like deep friendships, and like who adopts a 13-year-old boy from Colombia out of nowhere?
Yeah.
We need special people like that. Like, we can't have, you are a unicorn, and you always have been.
Well, people before I adopted him were like, oh, you are such a saint. You are an angel. And I was like, no. And now I'm like, no, I'm a saint. I'm an angel.
Yeah.
Yes, like it's really, really, really hard.
It's really hard.
Really, really hard.
Parenthood is really hard. Parenting midway, starting in the middle of the race, quote unquote. This is not like a great metaphor, but that's hard.
Like, have you ever heard, do you know why elephants have a good memory? Do you know why people say that elephants have a good memory? It's because when they're little, they put like a very sharp piece of wire around their ankle, and they put a big post in the ground. And so when the elephant tries to get away, it cuts up their ankle, and they learn, if there's a post in the ground and something around my ankle, then I can't get away. So then when they're older and they can just have a little tiny soft rope and a little tiny peg in the ground, and they never test their limitations again to find out if they can, they could just walk away very easily. I always said if I ever got a tattoo, that's what I would get, would be like a little peg with a broken rope. And I'm actually using this analogy in a totally different way, which is that when you have kids, I assume that they take your authority to be true. No, oh, this is good to know. This is what I picture. I picture like he doesn't, if I'm like, you know what? Go to your room. He's like, nah. And he's not used, he doesn't have the muscle memory of listening to me.
But also what you're talking about with an elephant is trauma. He was hurt by this rope and he doesn't want to be physically hurt again.
Right.
And it actually is a great sign of secure attachment that he can assert himself as the 13-year-old boy that he is to his mother. Actually, it's very frustrating. It makes me want to...
I'd like a little more trauma, frankly.
It makes me so upset when I'm not listened to.
Yeah.
But it's not a problem with them, and it's not a problem with the relationship, and it's not a problem with me. It's a healthy sign that they can assert what they want and what they don't want.
People keep telling me that. People keep telling me that it's great that he has these giant meltdowns and tantrums and that he feels safe enough.
He could never do that in the orphanage.
Right. No, totally. And that's the thing. I'm like, what? Did you get to, he's so demanding and so like doesn't want to help and doesn't want to do. And I'm like, really? Did you just got to hang around at the orphanage and just whatever? You didn't have to take a shower if you didn't want to take a like whatever those things are. You just watch TV whenever you wanted, 16 hours a day at the orphanage. That's how that worked out. Because he was there for 7 years. He was there for a really long time. But yeah, so it's good to hear that, but it's still frustrating because I would like a little bit more compliance, maybe not compliance, or just
but
like
maybe
not
cooperation,
defiance, or like there's so much defiance and so much boundary pushing, and so like everything is a power struggle.
Yeah,
and I totally recognize that the only time he really does what I want him to do is when I act like I don't care.
That's right.
Either way, but it's so hard to remember to not care.
And the other thing is when we do talk about muscle memory is that like, I talk a lot about respectful parenting from the moment a child is born. So I'm going to pick you up now. I'm going to give you something to eat now. I'm going to change your diaper now. And this is how you're feeling. And it's mostly, of course, they're there. They're aware. That's their body.
Right.
But it's a lot of practice for the mother.
Yeah.
For the father. For the caregiver.
Yeah.
To practice not being listened to or riding out a tantrum. Because when you have a newborn in your hands, you're like, wow, that's a really big feeling. And now I'm having a really big feeling. And it's a lot of practice. Yeah. It's not as shocking. It's shocking to the system when you have the newborn, which is what you essentially have in your personal experience, not in his body, but in your personal experience. This is a newborn self. Yeah. This is a newborn family. This is a newborn baby for you. But the muscle memory for you is you have a lot of catching up that you're doing all at once. And I have every confidence that you're acing it currently. Nope. And that acing it is not a possibility actually.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, but 13 years is a long time for both of you to catch up to this experience.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, and that's the thing.
And there's a lot of emotional stunting that needs to get like fast forward to.
And for me,
for both of you, for the dog, for the apartment itself, there's a lot of fast forwarding happening. So like all those tantrums.
That you have more empathy for, I would think, or at least when they're an infant
that it's developmentally appropriate,
right?
And it might not be developmentally appropriate, but we understand why.
Right, I totally understand it on a cerebral level, but when we're in the thick of it, especially because he's now bigger than me, he's still not stronger than me, but he's almost stronger than me, and he can be super volatile. I pay him now for good behavior.
Good, great.
We have he can make up to $1 a day, and I have it split up into quarters.
I just love your business savvy. Can we just go back to the Ritz crackers? It is always
coming back.
Yeah, I mean coming back to what we're good at. I'm just saying that at that coffee shop date, you were like, I just like making money, and I like to know that I have enough money to enjoy the things I like to enjoy, and it's you're so good at it. And you know what? If that's a motivating factor and it keeps the peace, And it does teach them about financial savvy and whatever
also
else.
Emotional regulation. Like, is this a big enough deal that I'm willing to lose another quarter from the day? You know what I mean? And let's see how you did at the end of the week. Like, he has up to $7 he can get. And like last week he got $2.
Okay.
So like that's not very good. Like that's seven. So it's 4 quarters a day times 7. That's 28 quarters he could get, and he ended up with 6 quarters, 7 quarters, or 8 quarters, whatever it was. Not enough quarters. Compared, it was a rough week.
And something that we always like to remind ourselves in these conversations is just that, like, he's not giving you a hard time. He is having a hard time.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is what you signed up for, and that is why people say, well, you were a total angel.
Right.
So could we go back to when you were an angel and he, you were like, you were like, no, I'm not an angel. I'm just fun. And like, it's only 5 weeks.
So he came and I was like, I'll take him.
Can't believe he hugged you.
Oh my God. Yeah, I have it on video. Like I immediately like burst into tears. And
wow.
And I just knew, like, I was like, oh yeah, this is my guy. And I have to say that even now, like, he drives me bonkers, and there's definitely more hard times than good times, I think, at this point. But we're still super connected. Like, I think that he pushes my buttons the way I've heard friends who have kids say, like, you know, they have one kid who's easy and one kid who like just pushes their buttons and knows, and they get each other in a closer way than they do with the easy kid. But that kid also, so, and that's, he and I are definitely that for each other. And he's always picking fights. He wants to fight. So he's always asking me for things that he knows the answer's gonna upset him. You know, he does stuff.
You know well, when you're in fight or flight, which we would have to, I don't know if we're going to get into his background or if that's okay. But when the nervous system is in fight or flight, the most pleasurable thing to do to access, it's not a cuddle, it's not chilling and doing, you know, work or play. It's fighting or fleeing.
Right. Yes.
This is a nervous system response that is great information and totally understandable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really hard.
Really hard.
Really hard.
Yes.
But
that hard because it's like, oh my God, it's like being in just a completely toxic, abusive relationship.
Well, right? But so we say that about toddlers all the time.
Yeah. Well, good. That's what it's like. Yeah.
And that's what it's like.
Yeah. And I knew it was going to be hard.
Yeah.
I definitely suffer from I can do that syndrome. I'm like, what? I can build you this couch.
But you need
this couch? I can build you this couch. And
you have.
Then I built the couch. But I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to do alone.
Right.
And that part is really hard. And because when we're having those moments, there is no cavalry coming. There's nobody coming to change the energy, to bring some perspective to it, to go like, whoa, okay, you two, can we just cool it for a second and have some popsicles? Like, there's none of that. It's just fight, and we're just in the fight, and there's only, until one of us flees, it's just all the time. You know, 8 times a day. Like huge blowouts all the time, which is super stressful, and there's just no other person. You have to be both the good guy and the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm just have to be the bad guy so much more than the good guy. So like, yeah, I'm fun, but I don't really get to be fun with
I know,
him
it's
that
so,
much.
you know, you're not the only one who experiences this.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, this is a very particular situation, but I keep throwing back to you, like, just so
great.
You know, because when you're in the thick of it, I think we have this feeling of, like, I'm a failure and I'm all alone and this is, oh my God. And, you know, if you want to follow her, she's going to be a guest on the show. Her name is Libby Ward. The Diary of an Honest Mom, and she comes from a traumatic background and is sort of rewriting the script for her family. But she's really fun. I'm really fun, and it's so bizarre to be so fun and then go home and be the bad guy. You're like, I'm the fun one.
Yeah.
It is crazy making. You're not alone. I am the fun one. How fucking fun am I?
The funnest.
And when I say that to my kids, or like I think I'm being funny, like they're just like, huh? Can I watch TV? You know, like, so.
Well, I think you inherently think your mom is kind of like a, you know, like my mom also, yeah, like my mom was like very funny and like, and I was just like, get, like, away from me.
Right, away.
You know, like when you're young. Then you get older and you're like, oh, thanks for the personality. I appreciate it.
Well, the thing is that's the individuation process. That is the thing. So the two becomes one for the joy of being, the one becomes two for the joy of being one again. That's what the Vedas say, right? Like you were one. And even in that embrace, you were one.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to make me cry.
You were one. And the individuation process, I know I had this experience when a cranial sacral therapist told me this when I brought Ness to him. I brought Ness to him when he was like, 2 months old, and he did cranial sacral therapy around the birth and how hard it was for me to breastfeed, et cetera. And he said, you were one in that embrace, in that like honeymoon 5-week period. You were one. You became two for the joy of becoming one again, for all of those moments of coming back to each other. But it really is the process of, and they say in the first year of life, actually, so you hold the baby close to you and you're in that 5-week incubation period where you're like, I'm with you, we're creating a secure attachment, I'm here for you, I'm the fun one. You can see that I'm the fun one.
Yeah.
It's like the time is truncated for you, right?
And it really was only 2 weeks before.
It was 2 weeks.
Yeah, the 5 weeks that we had was not like perfect, joyful, fun 5 weeks. By the middle of the time, he was starting to have these tantrums.
Right, because he had already bonded to you.
Yeah.
So the oneness was there, and it is the process of a child to turn their back on the mother and walk into the world.
Yeah.
That is the whole thing. Is for them to feel safe enough to turn their back on us and to go.
Yeah.
And it's a process that happens all day, every day. And when you're having those meltdowns, it's like it's that individuation process where it's like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do.
And
my 5-year-old says that to me. And I'm like, you have 13 more years.
Yeah. Before I'm
going to stop telling you what to do.
I'm still going to tell you what to do then. But I also try to be less fun because he has tons of social anxiety. He obviously lived with like 30 boys in a tiny house for 7 years. He doesn't want to make friends. He doesn't want to go out or do anything. He just wants to like hang out with me all of the time.
Which would make sense.
Right. And when he first came, like he was never not touching me, never like that more than 3 feet away from me. He still is like outside the bathroom door when I'm in the bathroom. Like he really is like just follows me around. But I need him to go. Like I cannot be his friend. Like it's that good cop, bad cop thing. So like when we're somewhere and he doesn't want to like deal with the kids and he just wants to hang out with me, I purposefully am not like, okay, I'll play with you. Like, nope, I'm going to be here talking to the parents and I'm going to make this not as much fun, or even like being home from school. Like he didn't want to go to school at first. He just wanted to hang out with me. And I was like, okay, you can hang out with me. I'm going to be working and I'm not going to be playing with you.
Yeah, but that is the experience.
Yeah.
I mean, without having...
it feels mean.
It does feel mean. And we do this to toddlers all the time. We try to encourage their independence because we have to get our needs met. Mm-hmm. Mothers have to get their needs met. Like if you keep... over giving and not having boundaries, resentment builds. Mm-hmm. Resentment of your own child. And it's uncomfortable. It's a terrible feeling. Resentment and burnout. You can't actually care for this person if you're not setting boundaries. That's uncomfortable. And you have to live in the world.
Yeah.
That's uncomfortable. And the other thing that that develops in a young child is something called object permanence. Mm-hmm. And they know mommy's there even if I don't see her behind the bathroom door.
Right.
That's something that his brain hasn't grasped yet because mommy wasn't there.
I know, yeah. Yeah. And so it's tough to have to make up for somebody else's mistakes.
Big fucking mistakes.
And I have also all kinds of generational trauma that like is like, ooh, I don't want to bring this to him. But yeah, I get, one of the things that I get super triggered by with him is that he constantly is like, you're going to be here to pick me up, right? Like 250 on the dot. If I'm 251, he's already like mad or like walking away. And I'm like, dude, have I ever not been here to pick you up? Like, I'm always here. Like, or when we leave the house, he's like, do you have the keys? You have the keys. And so and I'm like, have I not proved to you that I am a capable, smart, reliable person? And because I had parents who weren't that way, and I know what it's like to be a kid who constantly is monitoring. Like, I had a mom who would forget me at the movie theater or at school and not pick me up for hours. Like, I know what that is that he's doing, and it makes me so mad that I'm not getting credit for not being that parent.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm so glad you brought us to this point, and I'm okay being a little late. The thing is, when our children reach certain milestones, ages, behaviors, they're mirroring our own childhood back at us. And I was going to ask, like, why you think karmically, or I don't know, whatever language you want to use, why you were brought to this experience. Because it seemed so out of nowhere that you have found each other.
Yeah.
And for me with my kids, right, like I have all this generational trauma and things to work out that I have been working out. And I don't know that those buttons would be pressed had I not had them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could feel the spaciousness of like, oh, I feel better about that. I didn't even know I was holding that pain. But they highlight it in me.
Yeah. To me, it's. I think I just still have so much to work out, and I haven't like made it a priority because it's like he's got to go to therapy. Like I got to find a therapist, but first let's get him squared away first. If you have a good therapist, I'm interested.
I have a great therapist, and I have to say, she always says, once. I mean, not once. It's not like you arrive, but the more regulated the parent, the easier it is for them to co-regulate with you. You know, the more you know that really you're doing such a great job, that really this is rather normal, that his behaviors make sense, that your behaviors make sense, that you make sense, that like the story tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more your nervous system, he is necessarily, understandably in fight or flight, just by way of just catching up the audience, you know. Can we tell them that his history?
I mean, just, you know, he has every single member of his family has abandoned him over time. He doesn't speak any English, and he also doesn't know how to read or write or do math. So he's really kind of like lost in the world, but he's also fantastically cute. He's really good looking.
Yeah.
His love language is touch, and I'm like, please be gay, please be gay, because I'm like, we're gonna have such problems if you're not gay for sure. Like he's super cute, but he also wears a mask to school every day because he wants to hide behind the mask.
A lot of kids do.
And he's selectively mute. Like he's hilarious with me, and he sings, and he's exuberant. And the minute he gets out into the world, he won't even say hello to somebody.
Because he lived in an unsafe environment for a long time, and he's really understanding what safety is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I wonder, like, if you have any perspective on why you, like, why why this experience? Why you? Why? Like, do you ever reflect on that?
I mean, I can definitely see where there's healing to be done.
Yeah.
I can also see where, my parents and I have a very fraught relationship, and he's a real know-it-all, even when he doesn't know it, and it drives me crazy. And now I see, and again, the same thing about like, are you going to be here, and do you have the keys, and all of these things. And now I'm like, feel like, ooh, maybe I was very unlikable to my parents.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden,
I have that experience also.
Yeah, where I'm like, oh gosh, this is super annoying to have a kid who's constantly second guessing you and constantly telling you, he'll be like, it's that way. And I'll be like, I'm sorry. I've lived in New York for 30 years. You've lived in New York for 4 months. Like, how, you think we go left instead of straight? Interesting. And he'll be like, whatever you say, okay. And I'll be like, I know where we're going. I definitely have a little bit more empathy for my parents.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yeah, this would have been hard. This would have been hard to do for me too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much to learn. And for me, I know we have to wrap it up, but
No, don't rush. Don't rush.
A couple of years ago, I was in an Uber, and it was right before the holidays, and the guy said to me, like, what are you doing for the holidays? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, are you married? And I was like, no. And he's like, kids? And I was like, no. And he's like, family? And I was like, uh-uh. And he was like, are you going to be friends? And I was like, probably not. And then I was like,
This was the holidays, like the Christmas?
Yeah, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, all that stuff. And I was like, oh gosh, like, that's no good. Like, sure, I have friends that I could go be with as a guest, but I'm going home at the end of the night. Like, I don't have and there isn't like a go-to friend or a go-to family that I'm going to go spend the holiday with. I could find a place to go, but it isn't like, of course you're coming to us for the holidays. There's no place that I go. And I realized that the thing that I wanted more than a partner, more than anything else, was to have a table of my own, was to have a place that I belonged, that no matter what. That's going to make me cry.
Because it's true, huh? That you have and now you have that place. You did it.
Kind of.
No, it's not kind of. It's hard. The reason why so many of us don't engage in this process is because it's hard. And it's okay that it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone because this is hard.
And it's still super isolating, maybe more isolating than before, because I don't really have, like, in New York, most of my friends don't have kids.
Oh, wow.
Like, all my friends who have kids have kind of, and the ones who, it is in some ways a good cheat, though, I will say, because, I'm going to be 50. And if someone had handed me an infant, I would be, like, hanging out with 32-year-old newlyweds. Like, I kind of shoots and laddered it and, like, skipped. Turns out everybody that I know has kids that are this age.
That's great.
This is my plan.
Yeah, and that's been great. But he doesn't want to hang out with any kids. So I don't get to have that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get to take advantage of knowing anybody with kids anyway.
Well, you do, because you can talk to them as adults and say, like, is your kid doing this? And is your kid doing that? And it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Not everyone comes with Alejandro's family history, temperament, blah, 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 life. But a lot of these things are normal. I mean, a lot of these things are annoying, but and they're just annoying.
Yeah.
And the frustration is, sometimes the frustration on top of annoyance is that I can't fix it because I'm bad at this. I'm good at everything else, and I can't fix this. And this was a terrible idea. That can really fill our nervous system with dread.
Yes, dread is a great word for it.
Dread. And then we go back to the child, like, I'm dreading this encounter. I'm afraid. That's why it's important to take care of yourself.
Yeah. The dread thing is, because then it's like, ooh, I don't want to spend too much time with you, because it's only going to be good for a little bit of time before we have a blow up, and that just feels like chipping away and damaging our relationship. I'd rather spend less time with you and have it be, as opposed to, like, let's figure this out so that we can spend time together and have it not be so explosive.
It really is an amazing thing that you've done. You're in the thick of it right now. I just wish that there was more support
Yeah.
And I think like if there's a person out there who knows more support or a person out there who wants to contact Ashley for support, I mean, she's real good at that. But just because, you know, what's interesting is that you come on here as an honest woman saying like, hey, this is what it's like. Go do it. There are hundreds of thousands of orphans out there in the world. That's how we started this conversation. Hundreds of thousands, you said.
Yep.
Please go do it, you know, etc. I fell in love with this child who fell in love with me.
Yeah.
Like that this is a real thing and it's worth it. I have a table of my own and
it's friggin' hard.
And we need support. We can't do it alone.
My secret dream is to find another parent and get like a big giant house that has like 2 kitchens and 2 living rooms and then has like a shared middle space or a building where we have like 3 apartments and we have one and they have one and then there's one in the middle. Like I really feel like some sort of co-living situation would be great.
Well, if I know you the way I know you, the next time I see you in about a year, you're living in that situation.
Yes, if there's anyone out there that would like to come live with me, I make great Rice Krispie treats.
I know. I have a dear friend who, you know, got a divorce and has a young son and looked at me and said, do you know anyone who would want to take the spare room? And I thought, oh, that's so unusual or unconventional.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, she has this amazing roommate who's in her 60s and they have a gorgeous family.
Yeah.
The 3 of them and the nanny. And they, like, when I say gorgeous, I like so inspiring and the impact they do in the world is incredible. So unconventional doesn't mean not possible, as we know.
Totally. And that's my goal at the moment. That's sort of my next plan. I'm looking for that person.
Great. If you're that person, where can we contact you?
Oh, probably on my website. Probably
your new website is ashleyalbert.com.
Yeah, there's like an area there where I'm like, have an idea, I want to like get rich slow, like because I have all these ideas but not enough time to do them all. So I'm like, send me a note and you know I'll see if I can give you an idea to go off and do. So there's a place to send me a note. So you can send me a note there. Be like, my idea is that I would like to live with you and make Rice Krispie treats.
It would
be great.
It's really possible. Emily and Regina are making it happen. I'm pretty sure Ashley, maybe Laura will move in.
Well, I would love that. I love a good Rice Krispie treat. But it does bring back to like the thread which is common on this show, which is community.
And that's why we're doing it.
Community for mothers.
Yeah.
All different sorts of mothers, you know? And it's remarkable.
Yeah, and I actually think, you know, I don't know how you have an interesting perspective on this, and then I know we will wrap it up. But the divide between women who have children and women who do not, like, we're just cutting off so much support on either end. What are we doing?
Well, I think for me, I want that support, and I don't have the band. Like people are like, let's go to lunch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, someone invited me to lunch. And then I don't follow up, not because I really, really don't want to go to lunch, because I really, really want to go to lunch. But like, who has the time to think about calling someone to go to lunch? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so, I think that's where, and maybe I've just ideated having a partner and having that, like, I feel like I would be more fun if I had the partner, because at least then I'd have a minute to go do the fun, like set up this tooth fairy situation or go get the fun stuff for the tradition to do the thing. But I'm like, I'm just making lunch for tomorrow and making sure he gets the tennis lessons. You know?
Yeah. Partnership is important. Community is important. Another mother who chose to be a single mother via sperm donor. She lives with her parents.
Wow.
She came on and talked about that experience. We have to get community wherever we can.
Yeah.
A therapist is an important piece of community. The fact that you got yourself here is huge. You're in the very beginning stages of this thing, and I think we're really hitting on what you've always been very good at, building community. You've always been very good at that. And I think it's actually no different. This venture is actually no different.
Yeah. I think once he gets more comfortable being around other people, and I settle into it, and also he's going to be like, I feel like I have a very limited amount of time before he's too old for me to, where he starts looking somewhere else for those things. And I do have more time because he does not want to be sitting outside the bathroom door when, you know, he's going to want to be out and about and doing things. So I feel like I have just a little bit of time to set him on the right course, and find some relief for myself. I feel like that's kind of coming at some point down the line.
Yeah, I think it really is. And I think you're doing an incredible job. And the fact that you are here to share about it is really special and means a lot to us.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel like if I told someone about it, I'd be like, "Don't do it. It's terrible. Please don't." But really, it's totally worth it. Like, this table is my table. Like, I think it's hard in the way it is exactly right, the amount of hard that it is. Like, I think it's hard for people. Some people have kids and they're just easy kids, and that's that. And some people have kids and they're hard kids, and that's that. And I just happen to have a kid who's a challenge for me, but that doesn't mean that he's not my kid, you know?
Yeah. And it's like so much of that development is truncated into this very short period of time.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if we follow up with you. If we do follow up with you when you have that roommate.
I would love to do a second episode.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
I can't wait.
I should say that KidSave is the name of the organization that I used for the program that did the 5-week hosting thing, if anybody wants to do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you in about a year.
Okay.
I can't wait to find out.
If I survive, I will see you in a year, yeah.
Oh, you're going to survive. You're going to thrive. I know you. I love you.
Mwah.
Thank you, as always, for listening to the Mom Curious podcast. My name is Daniella Rabbani. I am your host, and I would love to continue this conversation at Daniella Rabbani on Instagram. And if you'd be so kind to rate and review, share this podcast, I would be just really grateful. Catch you next time, every Tuesday on the Mom Curious podcast, produced by Hoff Studios. You can find them at Hoff Studios on Instagram as well. All right, have a great day.